Hail, acolytes of the Dark Master! It's the last Spellburn of the season, and we are invoking a patron. Life's blood has been spilled. We risk the very fabric of the universe by opening up a portal to the author of Orbital Intelligences, the sire of Stratosfiends, Conduit Circuit Counselor Supreme, Sean Richer of Orbital Intelligence LLC. Strap into your best dungeon cart and get ready for the drop. This is Spellburn. Welcome.
Woo! Woo! Very
So
nice.
are we doing some tavern talk? Is that what we're doing first?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Jen, what's happening?
Dude, what? Why am I going first all the time? This sucks. What's happening? Well, I mean, life does revolve around the gaming industry now. It's kind of weird. Unassociated with work, I recently did an interview with Jogo Nogueira from the Weird Games and Weirder People podcast. For those of you who aren't familiar with Diogo, he's our ambassador down in Brazil, and one of the original gods of Urhadad. Is that correct? On the worky side, just prepping for cons and already looking at bigger and better warehouse shenanigans. So it's all good.
Is that episode out yet
yes, it actually dropped this past week. It is over 2 hours long, so if you spread it out over a couple of months, I throw no stones.
How weird did you get?
I mean, by your standards, probably tame, but that in and of itself is pretty weird compared to most people in the gaming industry, as it turns out. So I don't know. Honestly, it just became one of the coolest conversations just sitting there with my friend Diogo for a couple hours.
Nice.
And got a little philosophical at times. So that was fun.
What is Weird Games and Weirder People? I don't get it. I mean, it's some gaming podcast. Are you cheating on Spellburn? Is that it?
No, I'm a guest.
You're a guest.
I'm a guest, not a host.
Is Jogo the guest? Or is he the host?
He is the
Diogo is hosting it, yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
He's done what, like, I don't know, half dozen or more episodes? He's been pumping them out.
No kidding.
Yeah, excellent. I was number 24.
Oh my gosh.
I think Joey Royale was like number 2.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah, it's been fun, and I'm really, really looking forward to GaryCon, which is still 3 months away. And believe it or not, Gen Con registration is less than a month away.
It never stops.
Which is hard to wrap your head around because that's like 9 months down the line, right? But that's where we're at with the planning process. So lots and lots of stuff behind the scenes this year.
It never stops.
Yeah, there's always going to be another deadline, but it is so worth it. And I mean, it only took us, 2.5 weeks to get all of the Black Friday orders out. So we're good. Yeah. Yeah, the crew really rocks.
How many Chaos Lords do you have there now?
We have 2, and every now and then Bricky throws in a stone here and there. Bricky helps out sometimes. Yeah. That's kind of an awkward, painful subject though. So hey Julian, how have you been doing?
Well, thank you, Judge Jen. I am great. I've had a fun couple weeks doing a lot of home campaign Planet Skull madness. I've run a couple sessions in the last 2 weeks, and that's been really good. I took a couple months off because I had so many deadlines and other frantic work stuff going on, but after a couple months got back in the saddle. Yeah, geez. And the job is worse than the job, if you know what I'm saying. But it was yeah, I know. but it was fun to get back in the saddle with the local folks, and also ran a game. For some reason, I decided to just make an adventure because why not? For the Crawl for the Cure Ether Meet virtual kind of marathon thing that Corey Welch does. In addition to his big Gamehole charity push, he does an annual Ether Meet Crawl for the Cure event, as he calls it, and the whole thing raised about $3,200. I ran a Numerica game with Judge Jim Scatch, one of our favorites, as well as some of my local folks. We had Grape Ape here in that game, and we had a lot of fun. That ended up being kind of a dream team. They were rolling, and of course, the funny thing about those games is people bid on the game as you're playing it. So as a judge, you have to try to think fast because, like, here's a $50 for a monster to attack them now. And the feral child finds a dune buggy with blades on the front, which would have been easy for our guest tonight, but for me, I was like, okay, well, I mean, dune buggy, schmoon buggy, so it was fine. We had a great time. We had Twinkie monsters, Frank Zappa theme, and yeah, and almost time travel, but anyway, it was that was a fun game. There were a lot of cool partners, including the Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, if I have that right. They played like the Midnight Game, which Brian Shuttle, right? And Shutter, yeah. This old man could not stay up for that, but it might be online, so I'll try to see that because I would actually have loved to watch it. And then Judge Jen is not the only one who gets to be on podcasts. So I was on a podcast too, Judge Jen. So there.
Touche, sir.
Not with an any winner, so but a very smart guy that I enjoy. Matt Thompson, who does this Critical Hit Parader zine, which is like a rock-oriented zine for DCC. He's published a Blue Oyster Cult themed adventure, which I quite liked. I was a playtester when he ran a session like at one of the virtual cons in the COVID era, and it's really fun. So we just talked. We were going to talk about music, and we ended up schmoozing about all kinds of stuff. But that just went live, so it's out there, and we'll link Weird Games and Weirder People episode with Jen, number 24, and my Appendix LP podcast with Matt in our show notes. So take a look.
Appendix LP, that's great.
Appendix LP. And his zine is called Critical Hit Parader.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm doing there?
Hits me in the nostalgia, yeah.
Right.
I think I'm gonna have to check it out.
It's pretty fun. And he does like a little newsletter too, and he'll feature bands a lot about, and then he'll feature some interesting little obscurities too, which is fun to see what's going on.
Awesome.
Judge James, how about you?
Well, I haven't been on any podcasts. I feel like I'm somehow not keeping up pace.
You should just make it up.
And I was on a podcast. It was very, very nice.
Gaming and BS, wasn't it?
Yes, no, something like that. Quiet at home here for the month of December. I'm prepping, trying to figure out con schedule. I think I'm going to go to a little teeny tiny con called Flint Con. It'll be in Flint, Michigan. It's a one-day, lot of miniatures. It looks like they play a lot of miniatures. There's somebody running some Pathfinder. I thought I'd just kind of show up unannounced. Well, not unannounced, but show up and try to run a game of DCC. Maybe have a.
When is that?
What's that?
When is that?
That's February 3rd, the first Saturday of February. So it'll be fun to just kind of meet some new people and play a game of DCC. I don't know what I'll play. It depends on how many people show up. So it might be a funnel. There's only like one person, then I guess I'll run House of the Red Doors. So there's my fallback. And then maybe I'll go to CincyCon, which is the next month in March. So I'm just trying to like figure out all the cons I'm going to go to. Because I'm probably not going to be at GaryCon because
Oh.
they're sold out, and there might be tickets in like they were going to release tickets, I think on the January 6th, but we'll see. I don't know.
On January 6th.
Yeah, that's a weird date.
What? That's
I hope
not what kind of signal are they sending me?
I hope nothing weird.
It's a
Hmm.
Saturday, people. Don't make too much of it.
There you
Okay.
go.
All
It's
right.
Just a day.
also when Gen Con events start. You can start submitting Gen Con events. And if you're doing it for DCC, I recommend going through the Goodman Games
Yeah.
portal for that.
It's good times. They take care of you, you know, as a GM. It's nice.
We try.
Yep. And then I'm writing out The River of Lies, which is my Purple Planet Horde adventure, third level adventure. So it's coming along. It's you know, putting the skin in the muscles on the thing, on the outline now. So it's getting fun. I gotta go out somewhere and play it soon. That's for sure. So that's what's been going on with me.
And we anticipate having can I say this, that we anticipate having a very purple podcast in our January?
Yes.
I think we can say that, right?
We're committed. Actually, I've checked in with the Horde, and
Yeah.
the Warlords say yes.
Yes.
January 29th, it's on. We'll have a whole bunch of the Purple Planet third-party Horde writers and publishers here.
I think we should have like a podcast arena battle where we just put like everybody, like 2 people on for 5 minutes together and let them verbally fight it out, and then like have brackets to see who, you know, meets in the middle.
That's right. Like kick one guy out and then just bring in the next guy, and so whoever can stay the longest.
I'm sorry, Elena.
After playing in some of Aaron Crater's robot playtest stuff, I don't know. I'm not going to count him out. That was pretty epic. He might be kind of a sly dark horse type character in there.
Yeah.
In the brackets, he might be a middle seed who really stocks up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it'll be fun. So next month will be fun too.
Yeah, for sure. And Con of the North. Speaking of stuff that is coming up, Con of the North events tickets or events are up for registration now. So if you're in Minneapolis or Twin Cities Metro, etc., go ahead and grab some games out there. We have a ton of DCC guys. My buddy and yours, Judge Matt Tull, my friend Judge Gary, John Carnes, Jolly John Carnes, and Matt Rose, another pal of mine. A lot of local guys. So there's zillions of DCC guys running games out there, including myself, of course. So if you're local, check it out.
I was going to come up there, but it's like a 12-hour drive.
Yeah, you got to go around these big watery things. And yeah.
Other cool stuff coming up. Well, currently, I guess, underway. Rabid Dogs 2 from Nick Baran is live on Kickstarter. So you should go check that out. It's a sequel to the first Rabid Dogs, so a bunch of alternate rules for DCC. And then the tickets went on sale for the Indie RPG Creator Summit a few days ago. And so that's a 3-day Zoom conference taking place in January 8th through the 10th.
So say more, because people may not know what it is.
So I think this is a Goodman Games kind of fronted effort to talk a lot about the nuts and bolts of publishing. So things like Kickstarter advice or printing, finding relationships with printers, speaking their language, which is kind of a different, if you're not in the game, you don't of publishing. It's like it's its own set of things to decipher. What else is there? There's like social media engagement. There's a lot of topics just about
marketing, conventions, play testing, pretty much covering the gamut of that. And I would be remiss if I didn't say it's sponsored by Goodman Games and Backer Kit.
Right.
So it's kind of like so their audience is like, if you are third party curious,
Yes.
you might consider jumping in and checking it out and getting some advice and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Very much the business side of publishing. So getting kind of your leveling up.
Including Backer Kit representatives themselves. I was really stoked to see one of my friends on the back end of VK on the panel, and we've got a couple distributor folks in there too. So be a really good educational thing. And the first 2 days are free. The third day, I believe, is $49.99, something along those lines.
Yep.
And those who get that full third day also get something like a $250 refund, kickback, sponsorship, however you want to phrase that, from Backer Kit themselves if you start a campaign with them.
Yeah, they get a discount on a crowdfunding initiative. That's done.
Discount, cool. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
It's all day. I mean, it's not like a few hours or whatever. It's like literally like sun up to sundown, past sundown. Frankly, if you're in the northern hemisphere and the sun's going down at 5 o'clock.
Cool.
And the sessions will be available, I think, for a month for everybody who has the free first 2 days. They'll be up for like a year if you buy the full package.
Oh, so if you happen to be getting absolutely destroyed in your day job that weekend, you could still pony up and then enjoy all the panels and get all that good advice on your own time. Is that it?
Right, because it actually runs Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's a day job, like right there.
Yeah.
I'm planning to play hooky personally. Nobody
sounds like
work is watching.
Sounds like a work from home day. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's a remote day.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So, and then obviously it's all over the Goodman Games site if you're interested in that, right?
Yes.
Most likely.
Excellent.
Lots of places. Full media press. You guys are really up in the game. See tons of ads on Facebook these days, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Last thing before we leave the tavern, we still desperately need your love and your emails, really, at spellburnband@gmail.com. Send us something snarky, or ask us a question, or hey, that zombie is not getting any fresher down there, so feel free to also harass his undead spirit,
or send us a new spell to permanently quiet him. Who knows?
or something around olfactory.
Now accepting pomades via email. Yes.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Are we ready to invoke
Yes.
patron bond? We summon thee, Sean Christopher Charles Richer. That was easy. I didn't even know it.
That was a drop right there. That was like
I was expecting like stardust or something.
Magic.
Sparkles and stuff. Well, we got sparkles.
There was a frog.
wow. He phased in from another reality. I'm glad he is not a Goliath engine or what like that kind of
I am not.
Thank you.
Well, Sean, we're super pleased to have you on. I mean, you're this wild, unbridled mashup genius and game developer. Of course, Master Orbital Intelligence LLC. You've been in the third party space for a long time, doing DCC stuff and Troikia stuff and other stuff, and such as Terror the Stratusfiend, To Worm Too Furious, Choke Stroke, Churn Stroke Burn. And then your latest project is Dungeon Grand Prix. Some people talk about DCC RPG as the crazy uncle of DCC, and it's of D&D. It's a Gonzo D&D. I think you take the word Gonzo and turn it up to 11,000, frankly. So we're super happy to have you here. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Super happy to be here. I think one of the wildest things I've heard about anything I've written is that you can't dungeon crawl with 20-foot or 30-foot creatures. So I've been trying very hard to push against that stereotype, which is bad. No, I mean, I've been writing these games for the last 3 or 4 years now. I don't know. I think it's been since 2018, maybe 2017. I've lost track of time.
Yes.
But I was in video games for a long time, which was like really awesome. I think since 2004. So it's been like 15 plus years or something wild like that. Feel like I've done that forever. It's been really fun taking this as kind of like a night job, second thing. It's nice being able to write and it not needing it to do amazing, like being able to just write whatever I want and publish whatever I want. It's been really, really cool.
Yeah.
You know, you've been Terror of the Stratosphere, the first one, number 1, came out in 2019. And which seems longer ago than it is. Of course, we had that whole thing in there.
That was a decade, man.
That was like at least 20 years worth. I mean, that was quite a stretch. But having said all that, I mean, you have put out a massive amount of stuff in 4 years.
Yeah, I think I averaged a book a month for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I was like, because I couldn't believe it. I was going back through all the stuff, of course, as we are getting ready. And by the way, I just had a blast going through the whole Terror of the Stratosphere and stuff. And I was like, wow, that was only 2019, which means that, you know, Churn Stroke Burn, and which is huge, and then the Snake Wolf 3, which you're going to tell us about, and all that. I was like, wow, okay, this is quite a bit of, and some of the later Terror of the Stratospheres are pretty meaty and substantial. You know, I mean, the first one is no slouch, but then they get thicker, and there's a lot of content there.
Furious, a hardcover to boot. I mean, that's
Two Worm Too Furious was wild. It started off as, I think, 12 pages, and that was when I was working with Jarrett Crater and Fiona Maeve Geist. And as a result of dev editing, that went from 12 to like 72 pages. And before I knew it, it was a hardcover print run. Then it was on Kickstarter. Scrap Princess came in, did art. It was a lot of things that happened all at once.
Wow.
And that one just started as a weird joke of like, what if you could just have people riding on a purple worm? Like, that would be funny. My history in RPGs is Riffs and Robotech. So anything that you like, I didn't know who Gygax was for a long time. Like, is that like a beholder? Like, what's a beholder? There's a lot of things that I just accidentally discover about RPGs on a regular basis. So yeah, once I saw a purple worm, I'm like, that's silly. What is that? And that's where Two Worm Too Furious came from. Kind of me trying to understand what D&D was.
I love it.
Yeah, actually, when you say riffs, I totally get it. Actually, like that makes sense, because I can Stratosphere is riffs. Actually,
it's not a split growth of the cover, I swear.
Right. I won't tell Kevin if you don't tell Kevin. That's all good.
I just want him to notice me. That's all.
Yeah. Wow, that's wow. Question answered. That's really cool. But you know, riffs is all. I mean, is even though it obviously doesn't have that D&D ancestry exactly, although some of it is there, obviously just in mechanics, but in the original riff stuff. But the that riffs thing comes into the DCC Gonzo pretty well, except for the 10-foot ceiling corridors, as we.
People push really hard on that, but honestly, most things can crawl, and you can always knock it down the dice chain. So.
Yeah, and you know.
Well spoken.
I'm just looking at that Stratosphere and going, I'm going to need a bigger corridor. You know.
I think the Magistrates are about 30 feet. The Delvers are about 15. The Delver Armors, the ones that are in the power armor after they've sacrificed their cults to the blood gods, they're about 25 feet. There's actually a 45-foot one coming in Snake Wolf 3.
Wow. The grandmaster daddy of the Stratospheres.
They get bigger. There's I won't go too far into it now, but there's like a Stratusfiend anti-party in that one. They're all like level 15 and they really just want to be left alone.
Wow. Okay. Um,
I remember when I was writing Faye Harder, that I was like kind of hit up against the same problem. I was like, these things are huge. I'm definitely not writing a dungeon, you know. So it's all like open air. I think there's very little in that module that happens to be like dungeon at all, because you can't. I just like I couldn't do it. I was like, that's it. It's wilderness adventure. I mean, it's kind of is, but it isn't. But like, there's no dungeons. You can't do that.
if you really go spelunking around randomly underground, you'll find a lot of caves that are not conveniently 10 foot tall, right? I mean, you'll find 3 foot tall and 1 foot tall and 6 foot and all. So it's pretty arbitrary. They might as well be 30 feet tall, right? I mean,
Sure.
they're just as likely to be 30 feet as regularly 10 foot throughout the dungeon.
Well, I
One-
figure like the drop and like kind of like this catastrophic event that happens to the world is like the Stratosphenes themselves are like here, so they've got to be like building their own stuff or like
Yeah.
knocking holes through stuff. It's got a really super post-apocalyptic kind of feel throughout.
Well, the drop hits it pretty. You hit it dead on. Like the idea with Stratusfiend was to create something that was an overlay. Like at that point, I wasn't comfortable writing DCC adventures yet, or writing any adventures at all. I didn't know how to do that. But I did think, what if I gave someone a toolkit so they could go ahead and just turn any adventure into a Stratusfiend adventure, and then I don't know, you could do whatever you want with that. And that was kind of the basis for a lot of it. And that's why the people from the Stars Beyond the Stars, that's why they just look like humans. They just like show up and they're like, hey, grab a gun, let's go fight some Stratusfiend, or not, right? And that's why I pushed on the Stratusfiend. Like when you hit level 1, maybe you were a Stratusfiend the whole time. I don't know. I was just trying to find a way to make people just dive into it. So
yeah.
It's really, I don't want to say against the grain, but it really pushes against some people's paradigms. And for that, I highly respect you, sir.
well, thank you. It definitely pushes into kind of the Rifts world. And well, Rifts had Chaos Earth, which came before Rifts. Stratusfiend has a Cycle of the Snake Wolf, which is kind of everything leading up to Stratusfiend. So, aliens haven't revealed themselves yet. Things are a little bit paranoid. People pray to black helicopters, all that kind of stuff. And that's where all the Snake Wolf stuff comes from. So there's 2 of those adventures so far. There's the first one, which was like, what do you do with Stratusfiend bones? I guess you summon Snake Wolves. That's what you do. You drink tea, set up bonfires. And the second one is like very Twin Peaks, like Coen Brothers movie type thing. You're just wandering into the woods. There's a 900-pound boar chasing you. Like, yeah, normal stuff. But it was all Chained Coffin inspired. So,
Really? Tell me more.
well, I have this bad habit of getting about 4 pages into any book I read and then immediately getting inspired and have to run with it. So I got into the Chained Coffin and then immediately turned around and picked up whatever the Manly Wade Wellman suffering compilation was.
Yeah.
And I was going through that and I was like, oh, I'm starting to see this. And then I started remembering going to like tent revivals as a kid and just reading about snake handling and all these kinds of things together. There, I think I draw a lot of inspiration from video games. There's a character in Guilty Gear that has like a snake or wolf that follows her around. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Tied it all together. And I was like, oh, there's something here. So for Chained Coffin, like that's why I have the Shattered Woods. It's really just the Shutter Mountains. That's Chained Coffin, right?
Yeah.
Shattered
Love
Woods.
it.
So it's like
Yeah.
pre-drop. There's like a psionic miasma reaching out. Like you're getting headaches in the woods. You don't know what's really going on. It's kind of funny. Like I already finished writing Snake Wolf 3, but now I'm reading Mothman Prophecies. And like, I wish I read it first and just seeing all the wild stuff in the hills. So yeah, Chained Coffin's cool.
Is your implied setting for Stratusfiend like a modern Earth, pre-drop is sort of a workaday, regular 21st century type thing?
Yes, you can actually get a day job in Snake Wolf 3. And I actually have rules for if you don't show up at your day job for more than like 7 days in a row, you get fired. And that whole idea was to push on the whole adventure day and the idea of we're going deeper and deeper into this facility, which is not the Pentagon. You're getting deeper and deeper into this facility to understand what's under the earth. and you still have to like get back to work. But what I love in DCC is you get hurt and you have to heal 1 HP a day, maybe 2 if you're not doing much. And just the idea that you take the wrong hit from a not goblin and now you're knocked out for a week on bed rest and now you miss work. I mean, maybe that's too real for some people, but for me, I thought that was hilarious for like pushing on the absurdity of a dungeon adventure day or encumbrance and just,
Short rests.
yeah, trying to like do something with all of that.
There's something to be said about repercussions, right? Rather than just diving in and it's okay, even if I die, I'm going to get rolled over.
So if you lose your job, what's the effect kind of on the character then?
Well, that's the fun thing about DCC. Currency, as you call out in the book, or as it's called out in the book, is like not a huge thing. It's like you get stuff or you don't. You find a way through it. You're not a hero. You're trying to like rummage. So the idea is most people will start with a job, and that's how they will probably equip themselves to start going off in the pre-adventure. And by the end, it's like Monty Python nonsense because you're like, I don't know, I guess we're just pillaging everything because we can't afford anything anymore. And at that point, it's all black helicopters.
Poverty is an NPC, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about those systems a lot and how they create pressure. Like I was talking, I think, with someone on Reddit about it yesterday of like, tracking encumbrance is boring. I'm like, maybe, but I think the end result of the effects encumbrance tracking has on the campaign is like really bizarre because you turn into this whole thing of like, maybe I can't pick up everything. Or in the case of currency, like maybe I can't buy the B-52 bomber or the B-2 Spirit that I want to just bomb this facility. I can't buy it. I have to like instead go find weird alien stuff. Like, just the best way to describe everything I write, weird alien stuff.
Weird alien stuff.
I ended up going out. There's a museum of flight out here, the history of flight. So I spent a lot of time staring at spy planes. They have a SR-71 clone in there that I spent a lot of time staring at, trying to figure out how to internalize it.
And you have some aerial. I'm trying to think of which Stratus Fiend it is. 3?
3. That's the Bat God Stupid War.
Yeah, you have some cool like aerial. I think they're like aerial mount maneuver rules, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah, so we had a bunch of stuff. We have the there's so many creatures that I have in those books. It's the Skulker Pteranodon Raiders. So basically, in Stratosphere 1, getting into the deep lore, you have the Skulkers, which are basically these people that wear these like Cyclops-like visors. They have 6 arms and they have goat legs. And in book 3, I reveal that they actually ride Pteranodons. So it's like a 2-in-1 class. You take 2 level 0s and you fuse them into like this new class character. So you have to like manage the pilot and the mount. And then because, mounts or pilots die, I give you options for other things. And because I can't leave well enough alone, now I have to give you other things to do. So you have the more flying mounts. You have a bunch of weird like wing boards from like Tailspin and aerial depth charges, because that seemed like it made sense. And, leading into the whole Bat God Stupid War thing, I finally, in books 1 and 2, I allude a lot to his weird navy that he has. And I kind of have those, and they're just a bunch of like really large bombers and fighter jets that are like demonic. And there's just a lot of like really weird things. Strat 3 plays with the drop a lot, and I just put the word drop on literally everything. There's like drop grenades, there's drop thrusters, there's drop teleporters. And if you put the word drop everywhere, then you want to have repercussions. So there's a whole like drop table for like how droppy the drop thing that you're doing is. So it ranges from like, I forget where I was, to like, I've summoned a demon. And there's so many places in that book where I say you've summoned a random demon that I created a random demon table. That's like where Skullboy and stuff came in to like do a bunch of art. I was like, hey, you want to make some money real quick on the stretch goals? I need a lot of random demons and I need to drop them in here quickly. So there's like a giant bicep like pulling apart a school bus and other weird stuff. And it wasn't enough to add the random demons. Then I had to add something to pull the demons apart. So I have a Steven Universe inspired like half ogre class, which is this another giant, because like giants, there's like a half ogre is like 12 feet tall who can like trap demons in her heart and then use them to power things. So and that's kind of like how a book of mine gets written. A lot of weird threads, and I just try to connect them together so that you can't pick up one piece of it without dragging the whole thing out.
There are some really, I love that class. I don't, Many standard DCC players may find 12-foot characters don't fit in those core. We've just talked about that, but you could easily adapt that class to like a demon summoner, kind of more vanilla DCC wizard subclass, blah blah blah. But the way that the summoning works, and then there was a random table for the demon effects and what they do. There was some very cool stuff in there, and I think that could easily be adapted to be like a super flavorful, even kind of standard DCC world where you want to spice up your demon stuff. And I was thinking that, and then along those same lines, the weapon stuff in Stratus Fiend 1, likewise, I just think is amazing. Flavor for MCC weapons, especially all those little weird ads, and it just kind of takes the MCC thing, to the next level. And you could easily, you could take almost any Stratus Fiend stuff and add it to MCC, of course, very easily. And it might, some people would probably say it would fit better in MCC better. Before we go on, I think, Sean, we kind of dived in because we've all been reading Stratus Fiend, as well as the other stuff. But listeners are probably like, what are you talking about? So, right? Because we kind of have alluded to it, but maybe we need to, but you could almost read that first page of Stratus Fiend 1 it's pretty, if you knew that, you'd be sort of prepared for everything else in a basic way. But what can you give us the 10 to 30 second kind of like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will try not to go in the inspirations, but basically it's just the idea that you were sitting here minding your own business, and then all of a sudden reality like buckled and burst. Humans ran through that looked like humans that you recognized or would be able to recognize, and they basically were chasing these Stratus Fiend across the universe. Stratus Fiend burst through. You found out that maybe your best friend was a Stratus Fiend the whole time and didn't know it yet. There's a lot of things where the world that you thought existed no longer was what it was as a result of the drop. Trying to think of the other way to describe it. There's a lot of other weird things. There's like teleporting wolves and giants that leak fluid and have more giants. They're on giant turrets. Each one of the books, I end up putting the giants inside another giant, so it's like a turducken of giants by like Snake Wolf 3.
Russian doll giants, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because here I go again. Strat 2 has one of those giants, but it's been bubbled and put inside a T-Rex. And Jogo drew one for Fairy Harder.
Yeah. I love that. That's the Goliath war engine, restoration engine, or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's the big one. And God, here I go again. Snake Wolf 3 alludes that every time a Stratus Fiend joins the IX-777, those death engines are created to hunt it down should it go astray. So that's another thing coming. Yeah, but the whole Tentacle Rex thing was just really funny, and to be able to see them really huge and just running around. Sorry, real deep into deep Stratus Fiend lore.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of it there, and I think you could, I think a reader could have a lot of fun joining pieces together in a, I don't know if you can look for a secret key. Sean, only you can tell us if there's a secret key, but it doesn't really, in a way, it doesn't really matter, right? You'll get to like 70% of it. The 30% of it that might not be exactly what Sean thought are probably great anyway, or I don't know, something like that. So, but you could have a lot of fun trying to, Tetris these things together.
Kidding, Julian? I think it'd be great just to have one of the typical, in air quotes, DCC or even MCC adventures, and all of a sudden you are dropped, sorry for the term, Sean, into the world of the Stratus Fiend.
Oh, believe me, what you really want to do is get a bunch of unsuspecting people to sign up for sailors on the Starless Sea or something, and then as they're going up to the keep, your reality buckles and 20-foot guys walk. First a bunch of humans run out sprouting tentacles, and then a bunch of 20-foot delvers and gladiatrix queens and everything else start, and giants on dinosaurs, and It also reminded me a little bit of of Fringe Carcosa in terms of not even, I mean, some of it like the actual original Jeffrey McKinney Carcosa, obviously, which it shares both kind of stylistic, principles with, like, I'm going to describe stuff and I'm going to let people fit it together, and I'm going to tell you some basic stuff about it, but have fun with it. Don't, but also, like, when I would see people draw, like, I did a picture of Carcosa, they'd have Tyrannosaurus Rexes with guys shooting lasers, riding T-Rexes, shooting lasers and stuff. And when I saw that dinosaur picture in Stratosphere, I was like, that's actually more Stratosphere than Carcosa was, like, now I get it. Anyway, Carcosa is one of my favorite things, but the modern Pelgrane Yellow King game actually has the reality buckling and being rewritten, through the ages, and it is a whole different kind of Call of Cthulhu vibe and a whole different way of playing games. Not being in a D&D tradition, but the reality forming of it, and not just that, but the sort of French surrealist take on it might be sort of similar. It's funny how those vibes both coexist in both of those games.
I'll have to check it out. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. Yellow King by Robin Laws.
There's like a Paris like supplement. Is that kind of
where
it starts? And that's like 1800s or whatever.
Yeah. It's a late the 1890s. So
Okay.
just turn of the century. But I literally was thinking of Stratosphere, and I was like, the riffs never came into my head, which I'm not super familiar, but I've played it in a little bit of cons and stuff. But I was thinking, like, where does he get this stuff? It's like French surrealist, it's like Andre Breton, like, is that where this stuff is, like, yeah. So it's funny how the actually thematically are crossing, the same vibe too.
I think you said something really interesting in there, talking about, like, what does it mean to overlay it onto one of the adventures.
Yeah.
And I was thinking a bit more about that, and I was joking earlier about, like, how people have written blog posts about the too large to adventure, but the other side of it that's been really interesting is just hearing what happens when people just drop this stuff into their games. It's been really fun. Or just like, hey, I just like blew someone apart with Polyphemian Rage, which is the not Cyclops ability that all of them have, which is also pretty cool. Or like hearing people drop it into like their own Sailors game, or even 5e Spandelver, like hearing about was it Glassstaff being a Stratosphere or something like that. Like all these different things have been really, really neat. So I'm excited to kind of see what people do with it. And I'm excited to check out the Yellow King. That sounds really cool.
How did you I can see that you're just teaming with ideas, obviously, all the time. How did DCC come across your windshield first?
So I was writing for Savage Worlds, because Rifts took me to Savage Worlds.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this will be cool. I'll write it for this. It'll be completely different. Like, honestly, while they're similar, I think they're very different, and it's not just like a serial numbers filed off thing. I was looking at that, and I talked to a buddy of mine that was running a Savage Worlds podcast, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And he read it. He's like, hey, this is really cool, but I think you're shooting yourself in the foot here. This should be for DCC. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. That's the thing with the giant rule book, right? Because I remember going into Meeples out here in Seattle, and I was like, oh, I'll go buy the rule book. And I picked it up, and I was like, nope, I can't do this. And then after my buddy pulled me aside, was like, no, you need to look at this. I sat there, and I was like, okay, I'll get MCC. And I was like, okay, I don't get it. So then I grabbed DCC and read it cover to cover in about 3 days, and was like, oh. Okay, I get
that
it.
Look.
Well, it's funny because I remember the first time I saw a DCC or MCC stat block, and I was like, nope, can't do it. Brain won't working, because I was so used to like the Savage Worlds way or the 5e way or the Rifts way is abysmal but amazing. It's very close to like what we have on the DCC side, and the first time I saw it, I was like, this is terrible. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, yeah, if you can't fit all the stats on one line in one just chunk of text, I don't want to see it. And I've just started diving into DCC. I reached out to Goodman. I saw Phantasmagoria on Kickstarter, because I was like, okay, DCC, what are people doing with it? And that was running. And I was like, where did they print it? Mixam. Okay, I don't know what that is. Who are they working with? Like Jarrett and Fiona. And I was like, huh, these names, these places. And I started Googling things. And that basically I ran into a buddy of mine at work and he's like, hey, Zine Quest is about to start. And I'm like, what's that? Because I'm perpetually clueless about everything. And he's like, you just need to be on it. And I was like, oh okay, I guess I'll just be on it. And that's how it all kind of came together. I reached out to Goodman. I'm like, hey, Goodman, I'm writing this thing. I don't know if you want me to do anything with it, but here it is. Take a look at it. And it was just off to the races from there. It was very much like recommendation from a friend who was like, look at DCC. And then I read it cover to cover. I've read through MCC cover to cover since then. I've read like an advanced copy of XCC cover to cover. Like everything that Goodman puts out, I pretty much grab and read. Like I still need to go through like whatever the my brain's not working. Dragon Mech and like I need to read that. And I started going through Bronchosaurus, but yeah.
Oh, Bronchosaurus Rex, yeah.
There's a Gen Con guide that has it, Dino Crawl Classics, the adaptation for it. So the next time I play in a game, I will be playing as one of like the Velociraptor shamans or whatever. So
Awesome.
Do you get out to a lot of cons or out on the west
I am a
side,
cryptid. I'm permanently a cryptid. I went to Dragonflight a couple times. I basically show up at Dragonflight so I can like grab the weird one-offs. I have like the Egyptian Lich gold foil DCC book up there. That was when I cemented my love for DCC. I'm like, all right, I love it so much. I'm finally going to buy the book and I'm going to buy the fanciest, biggest, weirdest, most audacious one I can. So
Good choice.
Man,
yeah, go for it. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say you speaking of that gold foil cover, which is beautiful, which made me have dreams after things happened at Gen Con one year. You get some beautiful art in those books. And like not DCC, like not, I mean, I think maybe there's a McDevitt or something, some of those, but like James Edward Jackson, is that right?
Oh yeah, James Edward Jackson. So basically, Judge, he does so much wild stuff for me.
Yeah.
For this he's a critical part of Stratosphere for at least the first couple books. And he's also like in Turnwell and some of my other stuff that I work on. But my buddy who told me to get on Zine Quest, I was like, hey, I need to fill out some art. He's like, go bug James. And I was like, okay, cool. So James will get a message from me, frantic, usually once every couple months, where I'm like, hey, I need a spaceship. I need a spaceship. I need like a weird elevator god. I need that. Or I need a Tyrannosaurus with assault rifles for kneecaps. Like, I need this now. But obviously not now. Like, he's like, okay, cool, that sounds good. I give him the brief. We go back and forth. It takes about 6 weeks. He comes back to me. And it's really cool. His work is really awesome. And he really like built that initial imagery that a lot of people are used to for Stratosphere. Like that first cover, like coordinating that cover was fun. And I was like, yes, I need someone in terror. And there's also tentacles bursting out of the ground. And there's a spaceship exploding. And he like looked at me. He's like, are you hearing yourself? And I was like, oh, here, I'll sketch it. This. He's like, oh, got it.
Now, do you include your own art?
I've started including my own art in Strat 3. I have a bunch of weird glitch art that I was doing in there. I pretty much only do my own art in the necrotic edifices of Iron and Moon, The Depth of Time Untold, which is basically like my one of my weird Troika books, but it's all like really bizarre, surrealist Dada glitch art. There's another one of those coming when I have time. It's like, I think there's like 300 images in there.
Troika and DCC and Savage Worlds and what else? What other systems?
So there's a war game called Flagrant Factions that my buddy Mikey Lombardi works on, and I thought it would be hilarious to get a army book out before the actual core book was out, just because I do that. So for Crapland, which I haven't mentioned at all yet on this podcast, I went ahead and did like a Warhammer style like Army Codex book. Crapland is kind of like a surrealist take on like Empire Records or Mulholland Drive. It's very much like inspired from a weird place of like boredom. Yeah, there's a lot of like inspiration comes from like David Lynch's Dumbland, which if you haven't seen it, look it up. Just get the stick. You'll see it. But it's just basically a bunch of people hanging out. There's Mock and Shark 8. Shark 8's like a shark. There's Mel with the telegram stop in her name. She doesn't like people talking to her. She's also on fire. There's a toaster named Tella, who's also possibly a computer. There's Riff, who's like a guitarist. In Crapland 2, we there's Nope, who's on the cover, who's just his special power is saying nope to just about anything. He can basically counterspell a lot of things. Crapland 2 goes even further. It's called Weremart. I thought it would be really funny if instead of a Walmart, there was a Weremart. And if you slipped in a convenience store, you would get possessed by it and be cursed to turn into a convenience store.
Yeah.
And there's like there's tables for like how you get your name, like quick stop or whatever, like quick and go or whatever. There's a lot of like really bizarre stuff of like building on what I did with Turnwillow, which is my Battletech books that I do. And like, what if convenience stores were modular pieces that could connect to each other? So there's like a there's a shopping mall, which is a department store of department stores all bolted together, and all the different stores are basically like Power Rangers pieces in a Megazord, which is like pretty absurd. If you have a friend who's cursed into turning into like a convenience store, you can strap them to a flatbed truck, so that way they turn into a food truck when they transform. And it's like on every third Thursday.
Okay, so where can we get this?
With like the Stratosphenes, they're all about the same size, you know. You can
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so all that stuff you can get you can get at spearwitch.com, you can get at exaltedfuneral.com. I'm as soon as whatever cool things happen with the warehouse stuff, there may or may not be Craplands showing up in there. If me and Goodman sort that one out, I'm pretty excited. Yeah, Crapland is huge. It's totally something else entirely. God, where was I? Art.
Yeah.
Wait.
Crapland 1 is all entirely my art. But,
Okay, well we got it. So we're gonna link that, but we got to talk about
We got to
talk about
the latest one.
latest which
Dungeon Grand
Narrow
Prix.
that down.
yes. Okay, cool.
vehicles.
Perfect.
Vehicles.
Yes.
We got to go
Okay,
to
good.
vehicles.
Ready.
Another theme, right? More vehicles. Like
Yes.
there's a lot going.
Smaller?
There's
kind
like
of?
this thing that's going through, right? Like the vehicles and big things and all this.
So imagine Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings 2, or I don't know which book that maps to directly, but the second movie. Imagine if all the orcs rolling on Helm's Deep were in go-karts, gas-powered go-karts. Just think about that. And that's kind of the basis which led to this complete absurdity. And, you know, I push out, like, in the same way that, like, DCC says you're no hero and that kind of stuff. Like, I push on that, like, it's not a race, it's an adventure. Like, the absurdity doesn't come from making people, like, obey fuel or making people obey, like, going around a track a certain number of times with random encounters. I think that'd be kind of boring. And if you look into the first Grand Prix book, which is literally just a module for showing you how to put your characters into carts, how to map characters from hit dice to the cart size, different liveries that you can paint on your cart to give it magic powers, different equipment you can put in your cart to make it better, whether it's a bigger engine, different ways that different character classes interact with it. Like, I think clerics and wizards can like overcharge their engines. Actually, clerics are like bumper carts. Like, there's a lot of different things that happen in there. Like, I think thieves can drive on walls. There's a lot of like really silly things that happen in all of that.
Makes
And
sense.
the idea
Makes perfect
was,
sense.
if you could take all of this, kind of like what I learned from Stratosphere of just dropping some weird thing into something it's not, is just saying like, hey, what if you as the person prepping for your game, set up your adventure and just put everyone who can be in a go-kart in a go-kart. Like, what's the worst that could happen, right? Like the beastmen that are plotting against you in the beginning of Sailors and that are dropping things on top. Like, wouldn't it be hilarious if, like, when they're throwing spears at you from the top, or like when they're knocking things down or knocking down the portcullis or whatever, they're just in carts and they're just like flying by and you're hearing them, right? Like, it's really hard to dungeon when all you're hearing is like gas and smoke and combustion engines. So it just
Dungeon
adds to it.
as a verb. Okay, got it.
Yes, exactly. And I took my kid out go-karting so I could actually see how this works. And taking a fast turn in like a high torque go-kart and trying to swing an axe is the most hilarious thing in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why there is the action penalty for trying to attack while you're driving.
Yeah.
There's one for the kid, James.
Oh yeah.
I want to see video of that one.
Don't know about all that. I'm not sure I want to give a child like a hand weapon. On go-kart
And a car.
track.
the go-kart.
Car, yeah.
Then there's the whole question of a 20-foot Stratus-fiend in a 3-foot go-kart trying to go under a 10-foot bridge.
It's like a
Right.
whale in a fishbowl.
Yeah, like
You've seen like Bowser in the go-kart. It works.
yeah, it
It
could work.
works.
It could totally work. It could totally work. Now you got Dungeon Grand Prix, and then but then there's several kind of, I don't know if we call them expansions or just,
They're adventures.
they're adventures for it, right? And then including Hell Climb, right, which is dirt bikes.
Dirt bikes. So out here in Seattle, like I'm out near Georgetown, and they used to like drop motorcycle motors into dirt bikes so they could go ahead and race up hills and hill climbs, and that's how Hill Climb turned into Hell Climb. Really straightforward, but yeah, it's dirt bikes. So there's a couple of them. So there's Dagon in 60 Seconds, which is basically Gone in 60 Seconds, but with fish gods.
Like my favorite title ever.
Yes.
I will have to share with all of you the original cover for Dagon in 60 Seconds before Amanda Lee Frank made the awesome cover. It was a lot of really weird stock art, and like stock Dagon art is real ridiculous. I will make sure to share it with all of us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So that one's really fun. Like you have to basically collect all the different cars. Like, like all the cars are absolutely ridiculous. One of the things that I want to make sure not to miss is that Dungeon Grand Prix changed how I was publishing books. So all my other books are published in a very certain way, but because I'm pushing a lot more in Dungeon Grand Prix to bring more people online, I've changed a bit of for that series, like how I'm doing that. So it's a combination of a fixed fee based on whatever the discipline is. Everyone's disciplines are a little bit different, and everyone's rates are just different. But in addition to that, it was also 5% off DTRPG, and then 25 cents per printed Mixam or printed hardcover copy. And that's been really interesting, so that people can both get paid up front for the work that they're doing and then also get the royalties on it. The neat thing about all of this is, based on the last order from Goodman, we have just hit the second run of Dungeon Grand Prix. And it's the current highest selling book that I have on Drive-Thru RPG. So we hit the second printing, and the POD on DTRPG has not cannibalized those sales. So people are liking it.
Royalties, essentially.
They are. They're getting on both sides, on both the digitals on DTRPG and the print on demand on DTRPG. And then whenever I print a new batch of books, they get royalties on those as well. And that's just for Underground Period. I'm trying to experiment.
Game changer. Huge, man.
It's been really neat, and it's been fun, and just getting as many
A lot
people
of
in on it.
bookkeeping, too.
Well, the nice thing is, as long as everyone's on PayPal, it's not hard. One of them's not. No shame.
Yeah.
Everyone who's on PayPal, if they're on Drive-Thru RPG, that's really easy. I've never had to look at those books. They just book themselves for me. So it's really just, hey, I'm printing a new batch of books. Here's your PayPal payments, and let's move on to the next one. It's been really neat.
Oh.
So the crews are all over the place. Dagon is Nora Rosa Monkey Paw with Fiona Maeve Geist, who's done a lot of editing on a lot of stuff. Probably has hands on more Annies than anyone I know.
Yeah.
You have that. You also have Amanda Lee Frank on the art for that one. Wait, no. I've confused all of them. Amanda Lee Frank's on Dagon. Fiona Maeve Geist is actually on Two Clan Tango with Luke Gearing of like everything. He's like the only person who competes with himself for Ennies. So
I was going to ask how Two Clan Tango differs from Dungeon Grand Prix.
So Dagon in 60 Seconds, Hell Climb, and Two Clan Tango are all Dungeon Grand Prix adventures. And my ask to each of those people, Hell Climb was me, but my ask to each of those people was, I do not care what you do, but everything that can be in a cart goes in a cart, or we're not doing this. And it was really funny because Luke, there's like so many weird things. You go to the mayor's house in Two Clan Tango, and he's just like zipping around on his hardwood floors in a go-kart. And there's just a lot of like absurd things like that. There's like a rat who's like pontificating on like what it means to be a human, like inside of his go-kart. There's a giant dwarven mech, which is in itself a go-kart, but it's also a dungeon on wheels. So you can encounter the dungeon in different places. There's ancestors that will show up and try to drive your carts. Like Two Clan Tango is really wild, but I think it all comes down to rival dwarving mining colonies that are trying to compete for the same resource.
There's two giant caravans going towards that town, right? They're like converging on it. So you've got to try to take them out and save the town, or other hilarity might ensue. But I love that. I mean, just everything you just said. But additionally, it's like somehow set in medieval France, right?
Yes.
So like you know, with giant mechs and everything else, but the names, it's all very French. Like somebody has obviously decided to be a French scholar and do all this, and it has this very funny kind of
It makes it just another step of otherworldliness. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
they're all really fun. It's been a goofy place. Sorry, brain.
it seems like if there was one, I mean, you know, Dungeon Grand Prix is just as wacky as Stratosphere, probably in a different way. It's a little more standard D&D-ish, just with carts and then with motorbikes, then with, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But all the stuff you build on there quickly leaves the, you know, Stratosphere. But it seems like it's more adventure focused. Like even Dungeon Grand Prix, it has the rules, it has the craziness, but then there's an adventure in it, and now you're adding adventures with their own twists and new rules and new expansions and na. So did you make a conscious? I mean, it feels like you made a conscious decision. Hey, I want to get more adventure focused.
And that's kind of what's happened in my career over the last career. It's funny to say that out loud.
Yeah.
In the last like year of trying to do all of this stuff, like I think it was Stratosphere became really hard for me to write, like the core stuff of just like I don't know how many character options I can write. And as I started playing more DCC, I was like, I don't know, like base warrior is really good. Why am I doing this? And I was like, wait a minute. Like all the stuff I have there is good, but like what if I showed people how they could play with those toys? Like what could we do with that? And that's where Stake Wolf 2 came from. That's where the very explicit effort I'm going with Thunder Grand Prix is to support it with adventures. Like we can have new equipment and stuff, and that's totally awesome. And I think every book should have new equipment because that's funny and cool. But having the adventure to lead with just gives you more ways to like anchor in the world and see how things could work.
And I think Hellclimb is one of those ones that really stands out of the collection of them. That's like, there's a lot of flavor and a lot of world building. Like the circuit council is like all these kind of personalities with motivations and goals, and also their own race tracks or whatever, their own like, you know, state supported, like, you know, place to run the go-karts. And so like, I'm just like going like, when I got to that one, I was like, is there going to be a bunch of just kind of like setting books, as it were, for each of these things? And
yeah, they're coming. So basically, in that one, I kind of talk about the different kingdoms or whatever. You have like the kingdom of men. You have the dwarves. You have it's. I swear it's not Lord of the Rings. You have the half orc kingdom of the incinerator triplets, and they're like smugglers. It's like super wild. Like that book is coming next for Dungeon Grand Prix. I think it's called Smuggler's Pass right now. It's a level 10 adventure. I've never run a level 10 of anything. I mean, I've played high level rifts, but you know that doesn't really count in this case. But yeah, it's a high level adventure. It's pretty wild. It does have a race. I leaned really hard into the Dakar rally raids and how you're just going out and you have the race books that kind of show you from point A to point B how you get there. And that information's available to all the players in the GM to begin with. But that's not important. Doing the race would be really boring. You just have a bunch of encounters and whatever. But where the intrigue comes from is what if each one of those racers is allied with a different member of the circuit council? And what if you need to do things like dead drops between them or grab things or sabotage them, and you have to know where they are? And like, you don't know where they are. You have the race book. So you can kind of follow it to figure out like, oh, they're going to take a left on the third. They're going to go east on the third day. So we need to start heading east and try to cut them off so we can like meet up with them. Like that's happening. In addition to that, there's also the merfolk, Aloy O'Dane, who I call out. And they have a problem, the smuggler orcs, because they don't want them moving across the water. So the merfolk have come to the land and they're riding on giant hammerhead jaguars, which are like totally nuts. And yes, they are cars, but also they are actual jaguars. Because everything has to be a cart.
of course.
And then even the tire god is back, because you'll see in the first book we have the tire god iRubber, who's kind of just absurdist and kind of a nod to the film Rubber. And then in Hellclimb, he sent one of his asphalt titans to just turn the land to tar. And in the next book, he's actually sending a flotilla across the water, and they are basically trying to build a highway in the middle of the track. So a lot of silly things coming. So yes, the Circuit Council is coming back. They're coming back stronger than ever. I think there's a poster dungeon coming soon for the Merfolk. So that way you can hang it up and it's kind of like a Wave Race 64 type thing going on. But I need to finish getting that art done.
And before that, you have another project that's coming out, right? Like it's soon to hit.
The Snake Wolf 3, or is there something else?
Snake Wolf 3, yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. Perfect. So Snake Wolf 3 is, I saw what Sean McCoy was talking about with Dungeon 23. I thought that was really neat. I was already in the middle of reading Muster, and I was looking at what it would mean to build a dungeon. I spent a lot of time looking at OSE. I use OSE as kind of my frog DNA in the Jurassic Park metaphor. Like DCC is like my Bible, and my frog DNA comes from OSE because I never read BX. I don't know what any of it means. So OSE is kind of like a neatly laid out way to look at that. So I looked at that. It was kind of like, how do you build a dungeon? This is how you build a dungeon and stock it. And I was like, okay, what if I did that, but did it for Stratus Fiend, but based it in the Snake Wolf world? So everything is very modern. So if I was to roll like Knoll, which they're like hyenas, right? Those are my laughter drones. And as the conspiracy die increases, conspiracy happens. And once it goes high enough, any creature that's marked conspiracy changes forms entirely. So the laughter drones, they start off as kind of like these kind of laughing Joker-esque dudes with assault rifles. And once conspiracy's high enough, they're actually like full-on hyenas with assault rifles and doing other weird things. And I lean into that everywhere, like whether it's the crab spiders that are in like the older books, the giant crab spiders. Those basically start off as like assassins or hitmen and eventually become like weird Drider-like monstrosities with sniper rifles. That's kind of how I stalked the dungeon, but you can't just have a dungeon by itself because no one wants that. And White Rock is amazing, and I love all the things that lead into it. I actually inadvertently called it Castle White Claw to Joseph in a call one day. I felt real bad, and it didn't hit me immediately.
Claws.
But I was looking at how it all kind of like fit together. So, and I was talking to a friend of mine. He's like, well, you don't want to just have like a like a funhouse like dungeon. Like maybe you don't want to have that. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's bad. I don't know if I want that. And my other buddy was like, you should look at the film.
Yeah, you want a funhouse dungeon? What are you talking about?
Well, I didn't know.
Come on.
So I inadvertently put 13 factions in because my other buddy said you need to be in a Yojimbo problem at all times. And I was like, well, 13 factions get you there? So there's 13 factions that are all infighting. And if I were to draw a thing, it would just look like a Pollock art. Like there's no way to really explain what that looks like. But like the dungeon by itself, like that's boring, right? Who wants to go through like a 240 page, 12 floor, 30 room per floor dungeon with secrets and sub bases? No one wants that by itself. So I added the starter town, and the starter town connects back to Snake Wolf 2. So it's kind of the town where oh god, I didn't go into Snake Wolf. So in Snake Wolf 2, the Return to the Shattered Woods, there's a guy who's very much not Sam Fisher from the Splinter Cell games, who basically is sent by the government to go talk to a god. Depending on how your Snake Wolf 2 game went, he may or may not have interacted with that god. Snake Wolf 3 is what happens if he actually touches that god. He's on his way back to Washington, so you start in the town and you're trying to like find the trail of like the Crab King is his name, and you're trying to find out where he is. Like either his family needs him or the government needs him. Someone needs him back because the CIA operative has gone like MIA after like interacting with a god, which was a dying Delver actually. And it's like everything is just, the world is mutating. Whenever you level in Snake Wolf 3, there's a chance that you take on Stratus Fiend characteristics because you don't know it yet, but the Crab King is approaching like Akira like levels of power, and he's starting to affect everything around him. So you have the starter town called Mercy of Angels, where you start off in. Through that, you go back through the Shattered Woods. In Snake Wolf 2, you've been on the other end of the woods. Now you're in the woods on your way back to Washington, D.C., because 1997 Washington, D.C. is the correct place to base a campaign. So there's a whole city crawl through there. I grew up watching like the Pelican Brief and other like political thrillers, so there's a lot of people in baseball caps that'll talk to you on like park steps just to see what's going on and like pass you information. A lot of really weird things going on. I really lean into the whole Delver cult thing. So there's a lot of people that are starting to realize the Stratus Fiend are there, and some people that are starting to see them. So it's very like X-Files. It's very the X-Files first movie. It's very Charlie Sheen's The Arrival. There's a lot of like really weird paranoid things happening there.
Awesome.
And all of that leads into the dungeon. So there's a dungeon, there's the 3 crawls leading up to it, there's 13 factions, it's like 400 pages. The bestiary is at least 70 pages. There's a lot of things in there.
And that's dropping in the new year.
Somewhere in the next 3 months. I'm waiting to wrap up layout first. I really like to go to Kickstarter with everything ready, so I don't have to worry about every time you get the update that's like, hey, your backers want to hear what you're doing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or Backer Kit as an alternative to
Backer
Kickstarter.
Kit.
Just
I
saying.
will have to follow up with you and find out more
Yes.
about how that works.
Just saying. Well, you can find out all about it during our Purple Month in January.
Yeah. So, wow, this has
Yeah.
been a revelation.
This has been a heck of an hour, and we could
Yes.
probably sit here for another 2.
Oh, at least
Probably.
2.
And Sean has so much energy, he could just keep us infused with it for the next
Well,
day.
I
Yeah.
think this is just part 1 of hopefully we'll have we can have Sean back and we'll talk. If you keep doing 1 a month, we'll have 12 new products in next December.
Insane, man.
I'll tell you what, if you do 12, I promise to have you back in December. If you do
Right.
10, I think I would love to have you back anyway. So
What if I finish writing this MCC one that I have coming? It's based on
Yeah.
Universal Soldier.
oh, I love it. I
Oh.
love it. Well, and yeah, I was reading Stratosphere again. I was like, why didn't you do this for MCC instead? But anyway, that's
It
another
scares me. I don't know how it works. I need one of you to explain to me how MCC works. I've just never actually.
We just need like a 20-minute demo.
You just
time.
need to
Yeah.
pirate the old Gamma World PDF, and all will be clear. The original one with the black and white cover and the guys in the
Yeah.
helmets and that.
Does Metamorphosis Alpha work, or do I have,
Oh
to
yeah,
use Gamma World?
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
Metamorphosis is almost it's same. It's
Yeah.
the frog DNA for if yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
right. Last
Now,
words?
James had one question before, and I just want to circle back to that because it's a pretty good thing to slide into the outro with. Sean, are you going to be appearing at any conventions in 2024?
Not in any official capacity that I'm aware of yet.
Noted.
I didn't think about it. I'm a cryptid.
There's time for improvement then. Got it.
Well, maybe. I need to make I tabled at PAX U a couple years ago, helping a buddy out with some of their cool, like weird VR stuff that they were doing. But yeah, it'd be cool. I like working the conventions. I like that a lot. So
Awesome. Hey, I might talk to you about Gen Con anyway.
could be fun.
We've got 1,000 square feet for a booth, man. We could use the help.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a lot of royalties.
We'll talk.
So last words, everyone, before we pull the plug.
2
Come to
things.
GaryCon. Play with the Pits of Lost Agartha ziggurats.
Nice.
Hey, I'll end on 2 notes. For me, email us at spellburnband@gmail.com. Send us your emails. We need your emails. We're eventually going to get the zombie guy back here. That's number 1. Number 2 is I challenge every listener, including me, Sean, Jen, and James, and everybody listening, and Alana, to just run some DCC or MCC, or for that matter, OSE or anything, and then the drop just happens, and that's in the second hour, the third hour. Just you got to have a Stratosphere drop in the middle of a game, totally unannounced. Inflict this on your friends, especially if they're in 10-foot corridors. I want to know about it. Do it, and let's hear what happens.
Lankmar is never going to be the same.
Yeah, Lankmar will never be the same.
Lankmar GP.
Nor will Made the RPG.
Oh my god. I might go-kart that one.
Yeah, well, that might be a dirt bike one or something. I don't know.
Sean?
Yeah, so as you're getting ready to play RPGs with your families this year, or whoever you play with, just put everything in a go-kart. That's all I ask. Just any character you have, just put them in a go-kart, see what happens. If it's not cool, tell us about it.
I'm gonna
Putting you guys on the hook.
I like it. I'm gonna have to try out some go-karts and Netcrawl next. I think that's what I have to do.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, light
Tron,
cycles, right? That's already built in. So there you go. All right.
On
So
that
this has
note.
been Spellburn. Mega thanks to Glitter Wizard, Loot the Body, and St. Karloff for permission to use their music. We'll, of course, all these things, all the podcast files will arrive soon on Spellburn. Everything is available on Spellburn, and thanks a lot for listening tonight, and happy holidays and happy new year.
Game on.